This episode of the Totally Rad Show is brought to you by GoDaddy. Coming up on today's TRS, we check out the comic book Chew.
Totally Rad Show.
We're back with comic books for another year, hitting up the comic books. We're talking about a book that has garnered a lot of attention. It's called Chew, and it's from Image Comics. And it is, it's written by John Layman and drawn by Rob Guillory, I want to say?
Cool.
And it is a book about a guy who has a very specific superpower. He's a cop, detective, and he's got something called cybopathy, I believe, which is a made-up thing, which means that he can, if he bites into something, any food item, he feels the emotion of that thing right before they were killed. So that's useful.
Well,
What?
He sort of knows like a
Sort of
whole,
knows
it's
his
not an
whole
emotion of a
path,
thing.
history.
Yeah,
It's
it's
He can tell you anything that happened
Like the
to
tree
the
that the apple was grown on, the person who picked it, the pesticides they used.
Yeah.
Same
all that
difference.
stuff.
Basically, he gets information by ingesting items,
Yeah.
so he can't really eat a lot of food. Fortunately for him, beets don't have that effect, but he can't eat any chickens because he'll freak out because he'll feel the emotion of how them got beheaded. And
Speaking of chickens, this takes place in a world where...
well, yes, that is. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
Well, I mean, it's not certainly not our world. It's you know, his brother works for this.
It takes place in the fiction that poultry has been outlawed.
Exactly.
Because of like
avian
what we
flu.
went through, the
Yeah.
avian flu, as if that really happened, like in a more severe way. So now all chicken, is it all meat or just chicken? All
Chicken.
chicken has been outlawed. It's basically like Boardwalk Empire for that, like because it's sort of like people have illegal chicken whatevers and.
Yeah, and his brother, you know, works for a place that is running basically the moonshine version
Right,
of a chicken
right.
coop.
Yep.
Right.
Anyway, so he's a private investigator. He gets discovered that he has this power and gets pulled into a super secret government organization. Dan, why don't you go ahead and start?
Fun.
Yeah?
Super fun. This is a fun comic book. It's really well. I love the art. I love the art style.
Very stylized, very cartoony.
And I love the layout has like every book opens on these like little tiny squares making up a thing. Like it sort of it doesn't play with the layouts in a way that a real indie book like Asterios Polyp, like it's not totally experimental, but once in a while it has those things that make it a little bit more unique and pop. And it has really fun moments, like the action sequences are like these crazy ninja battles that happen out of nowhere that are, that just add to the fantastical and whimsical feel of the entire book. It's not profound or deep in any way, but it just is a lot of fun.
Alex, do you have fun with
Interesting.
it?
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. I did have a lot of fun with it. I think this is definitely a book that you should not eat just before.
You should not eat this book.
You should not read this book just before, just after, or during any kind of food consumption because it is pretty disgusting at times. The things that he is meant to eat or accidentally eats or eats on purpose. It's like, okie dokie. But it is really fun. I mean, I think that there is sort of this, I didn't really love the whole, it was a little hammy is the wrong word to put, but because,
unintended.
yeah. No, but it's a little out there at times.
Yeah, it's
you know
out
what I
there.
mean?
It's
like
out there.
he's working with the FDA, and it's like, oh
And the FDA
boy.
is like the super militant organization.
Right, and it's like, it's a little bit out there for me as far as comedy-wise. Like, I get the comedy choice of like, haha, it's the FDA, haha, it's chicken instead of, you know, whatever. I get those, but it was a little, it seemed beholden to that comedy choice, but then as it was being written, was realized, hey, this could just be a really cool thing, but they kind of, I felt like they were sort of hindered by this, okay, it's got to be the FDA. Okay, well, let's just keep saying that, you know what I mean? And I felt like it would have done more of a service to the material if they had still kept the sort of light funniness of it, but not had make it so like, you know, whenever they go down the road of the wah, wah, it's chicken not booze, it's like that's where it falls apart for me. But it's really fun. The idea that he eats something and sees all this information is I thought really clever. And then sort of like when that girl comes in, the counterpart who can like express words and then make you elicit the feeling of taste.
She's a food critic.
Yeah.
Her superpower is that she can say something so eloquently that you have the true sensation of what it is.
The taste of the item, which of course I mean, those moments are way better than the comedy of the like Bird FDA stuff.
It reminds me very much of Pushing Daisies in being a detective story.
Great
and
television
also
show.
An odd superpower and used in a comedic way as opposed to like a fighting crime way.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you say that. I wish it was more like Pushing Daisies.
That's why I was going to segue
Yeah.
to you because I know you love Pushing Daisies.
I do, and I mourn its loss. I did not enjoy Chew. I wish it chose a direction more clearly. I feel like it was straddling the fence between this kind of cool CSI type detective story and just this bizarre, out there, wacky thing.
Alternate reality plays, yeah.
My biggest problem with this book is that it doesn't take its time at all. And you know, we complain
true.
often about comic books where it's like, wow, nothing happens for so many. Or you know, you said before, like, well, you read the whole first year and it's not even what the thing is about yet.
Yeah.
Well, this is the opposite of that. It cuts to the chase and it wastes really great opportunities, I think, in creating tension. I mean, there's like a betrayal in the first issue, and you know, it's like, well, I don't care because I didn't have any time establishing that relationship with those two guys before the betrayal happened. Or, you know, there's what?
There's something to that, though. There's something to, like, especially the partner. There's I just remembered the hilarious joke with the partner in the hospital, and he's confessing. And but there's something to that only time would tell. Is it spending all of its nuts, or is there really?
How many nuts does this guy have?
You've heard that analogy before, spending nuts.
Oh, sure.
That common phrase.
Common.
The Squirrel Tavern that you hang out at?
But it's another thing if like if John Layman's got big plans for the future and we're not even there, but there's really a lot of fun meat to get to. That would be. I love that it doesn't need to.
I think it has abundance of ideas, so it can squander some.
Exactly. It's not squandering.
know.
It's just like things are happening as opposed to just sitting through filler. There's not a lot of filler in this.
There not a lot of filler.
There are
I feel
monsters
it's
of the week.
rushed. And it gets
Comic
to
books
such
lend to that sometimes.
like if you have just this
Right.
normalish world with one or two things different, like all of a sudden this guy can eat and feel things. That is a very compelling idea, a really wonderful starting point for a fictional story. But now it gets muddied so fast. I mean, you have these bizarre villains. You have like mimes robbing banks, and you have, everybody's got a superpower all of a sudden, and it just gets too muddy too quickly. And like you say, these like giant ninja battles, where it's like, well, tonally, where are we? I feel like.
The interesting is that's what reminds me of Pushing Daisies. Pushing Daisies, there could be a gritty version of a guy who, maybe it's like more like Sixth Sense or something, who can see who touches bodies and those things. But Pushing Daisies has lots of fantastical things. There's like windmills and like so it kind of
but
needs
that
to
thing
have that
lives in a
order to
storybook
abide.
world. I mean,
That's what this felt like to me. No?
It didn't feel like that to me. It felt like it lived in a more gritty world, and then this other weird stuff. I don't know. It just tonally didn't ever work.
Well, it's kind of a little bit like what I was thinking, where I kind of wish that they had gone more the idea of keeping the comedy, but sort of a little bit more of the, less of the sort of absurd comedy, and more of the sort of just genuine comedy that they had in the books. You know what I mean?
I think I liked the concept so much that I felt as it rushed
didn't
through.
service the
and then you got to
concept.
do with a metal face.
So they could have
and-
explored. They didn't explore a lot of the sci-fi idea of the Chibo path. They explored more the fiction of the world.
Yeah.
And maybe you wanted more of the, which I agree. I would like that too. More of the like, well, what else? What other like Lost Room? Like, what other ramifications does just one superpower lend itself to? They kind of did though, but
because I could see a version of this as. Comics are being made into films and TV shows.
Right.
I could see a version of this that is a live-action filmed version that is like a TV show, and you just have the one thing, and it's this weird secret that this guy has to keep.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get into all the crazy, wacky. You're part of a secret organization with a boss who's enormous and impervious to pain, and it just there's too many things I think cluttering up. But I can see with the comparison to Pushing Daisies.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's not what this is trying to do, but that's also a good idea, separate idea, but equal.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
the Abraham Lincoln of story. Is that
Anyway.
Abraham Lincoln? Is everybody equal? The Stained Red History coming up.
All right, remember to stick around for this day in rad history, but we do want to thank our sponsors. GoDaddy.com is your place to securely host your website. They've got a 99.9% uptime guarantee, 24, I don't know if it's guaranteed, but that's their current rate. 24/7 support. Also, there's a free Android, BlackBerry, and iPhone app, which is amazing for GoDaddy on the go. You can get 10% off your order by using the coupon code TRS8 when you check out.
Do it.
Nicely done,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
Nicely done.
Send us a background. Fans of TotallyRadShow.com, like Megan did. Really, really cool. Get it? Cool background.
Ah, cool, because it's cold. We will see you tomorrow. Bye.
Don't miss tomorrow's show where we finally review Breaking Bad.
Today is January 5th, and on this day in rad history, way back in 1945, the cartoon character Pepe Le Pew debuted in a Warner Brothers cartoon called Odorable Kitty. Odorable Kitty.
Amazing.
Pepe Le Pew!
He was the
love him.
one. I'm
His
sure, like,
girlfriend always accidentally walked into the paint, so he thought she was a skunk.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys all had like favorite cartoons or cartoon characters that like he was like one of my favorites, as well as Speedy Gonzalez,
Yep.
and that never showed up. You know, like I always wanted him to show up on the cartoon that day.
That's an entire cartoon about date rape. Let's just be honest about it.
Which one is?
Pepe Le Pew.
Pepe Le
That's
Pew?
the whole concept.
Well,
He wants a girl that doesn't want him.
it's about knowing when no means yes.
You know, one thing people
horrible.
don't know about him, though, is if Pepe Le Pew married Winnie the Pooh, he'd be Pepe Le Pew Pew.